many practices to share with you guys, and I can't wait to get started. First of all, my name is Sulvay Barrios, and I'm officially going to introduce myself in a few moments. But first, I just want to kick it off by just giving you guys some general information about what is it that we're going to be doing over the next 3 days. What are our goals? What are the logistics of this 3 day event going to be looking like? What you can expect? What like everything that you need to know about the 3 day Equinox challenge. And after I'm done with that, I'm going to just set up this space and introduce myself. But I can already tell you, my name is Sulvay Barrios, and I am the co-founder of the Mind Wisdom Project. And I am so excited to see you guys here for this 3 day Equinox event or Equinox challenge to receive this special time of the year and the energy that it brings us. So as you can see on the screen, I just started sharing a slide with you guys just to share a little bit about the information of how the next 3 days are going to go. So as you can see, I'm sharing a little bit about the event logistics. So as you guys probably already know, but just in case you didn't know, we're going to be meeting every day for 3 days, and every single one of the meetings is going to be lasting 90 minutes. In those 90 minutes, we're going to have all kinds of activities. We made a really good balance between knowledge and wisdom. What does it mean, knowledge and wisdom? So we're going to be actually sharing information with you, but wisdom in the Maya tradition is the ability to take action, to transform the knowledge that you have into action. So we're also going to have a lot of practical exercises, actual spiritual practices, things that we're going to be doing together. And you're already going to start to see a little bit of that today. The other thing is that Zoom has a limit of 1,000 people. And so it's important as well for you guys just to know to try to show up a little bit early every day, whether it's 10 minutes before, 15 minutes before or something, just in case to make sure that you actually have a spot. But if at any point, for whatever reason, in the next 3 days, you can't actually come, don't worry. There is going to be a recording of this event that we're going to be sharing a couple of hours after every single one of the live Zoom calls that we're having right now. Additionally, this is an equinox challenge. In the Northern Hemisphere right now, on the 20th of March, we're going to be celebrating the spring equinox. The spring equinox happens at a very specific time, and in the Maya tradition, is a very sacred thing. It happens at a very specific time all around the world. So we actually wanted to share with you what that time is in different time zones so that you guys can be prepared for that. The spring equinox does not happen today. We made it a 3 day challenge, but the actual equinox is going to be happening tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 20th of March, and it's going to be happening exactly at 2:01 a.m. Pacific time, at 5:01 a.m. Eastern time, and at 10:01 a.m. Central European time. So you guys can be ready. You can do the conversion of the time zones if you live somewhere else in the world. We didn't have enough space in the slide to put too many more time zones, but we just chose these basic ones. And here's the thing that I actually really want to share with you about why did we decide to make this a 3 day event. So of course, we could have just met tomorrow for 1 hour or 45 minutes or anything like that. And we could have naturally simply done something as simple as just doing like a Mayan ceremony. But this time of the year is so important for us and in the Maya tradition that we actually decided to make this event super deep as we can, super profound as we can. So we decided to make it 3 days so that we can give you so much context as to why this time of the year is actually sacred, as to why equinoxes and solstices are some of the most important times during the solar year for the Mayans in the Maya tradition. And so today, the plan is to give you a little bit of an introduction that is general to Maya wisdom. We're not yet going to get super, super deep into the topic of the equinox, but we realize that even though I do see a lot of familiar faces here, and if you guys are part of the journey or participated in the challenge or you're part of the community or anything like that, it's very nice to see you guys. It's always so cool to have the same people join us in these kinds of events. So hello to everybody who's been with us for a long time. But we also realize that there's probably a lot of people here who are completely new and might just be curious and don't even know who the Maya are or what the Maya tradition is. And for us, it was really important during this event to actually be able to give you guys as much context as possible and to introduce you to the incredible tradition that the Maya created over thousands of years and what it represents and what it stands for and why this is a sacred time of the year, because we wanted to make this for you guys truly transformative and as impactful as we can possibly make it. So we've been planning this event for a really long time now, and especially over the last month, we spent, I don't know, almost every day just coming up with what can we share, what practices can we do, and in what order can we do them, so that everybody who decides to join and participate in this challenge can actually make the most out of it, which is why we created activities for 3 days straight, but they're not disconnected from each other. Everything that I'm going to be sharing with you, every practice that we're going to do, including the Maya spiritual leader that's going to come tomorrow to do a live practice with us, every single thing that we're going to share, from the knowledge to the wisdom to the little exercises, is all interconnected with each other. And we actually do have an end goal so that you guys can actually truly feel an impact and a transformation. So my recommendation is that you don't miss anything, that you don't just come tomorrow just for the spiritual practice, but that you actually participate in all of the 3 days so that you guys can actually truly have this, real understanding of why the equinox is important, and also really feel how profound these practices are in the Maya tradition. So everything builds on top of the other. So don't miss any moment, as it says there on the slide. And I'm so sorry, the slide stopped sharing, but I need it again. 1 second, technical error. One moment. All right, that was it actually. So just be 100% present was the bullet point that I missed. Interact in the chat. Make sure to stay tuned until the end of each day. And I'm also going to be trying to ask you questions. As you guys can see, there's a lot of people here. So there's no way that we're going to be able to interact individually with every single one of you, but we want to make it as interactive as possible. So there's going to be moments where we might invite one of you to speak if you volunteer to speak. And otherwise, I'm going to try to ask you as many questions as I can to just hear how you feel during some of the practices in the chat. So don't be shy. Feel free to write as many things as you want in the chat. And talking about the chat, I'm going to make a small remark. We do have some of the Mayan Wisdom Project team members here that are going to be here to support you in the chat if you have questions or anything. But again, as you guys can see, there's a lot of people here and we only have 2 people to answer questions. So there is no way that they're going to actually be able to get through every single one of your questions. But if one of your questions or one of your comments or anything that you'd like to share with us is not answered in the chat, then I do invite you. 1 second, my camera just turned off. Okay. Then I do invite you to actually write us an email at info@mayanwisdomproject.com. I don't know if you know this, but we also have a free community space where you can chat with other members of our community, where you can also chat with the members of our team. So if you have any questions, feel free to post it there, or send us an email, or send us a DM on Instagram, or send us a message on Facebook. Our team is always there and always available to answer your questions. But I cannot promise that they're going to be available to answer every single question in the chat, because we haven't even gotten started yet. And I see the chat is already exploding. So I wish good luck to our customer service team. I hope you guys can actually get through all of the questions and comments that are here. But now, to actually start before I introduce myself, I'm going to do something that a lot of you guys who have joined us before for different events, different activities that we have done here at the Mind Wisdom Project know, which is to actually set intentions and to open up the space in a very intentional way. And for that, we prepared a little slide for you that I'm going to share on screen right now, and with a traditional Maya invocation. It's very short, but we always believe that it's a beautiful way to open up the space in the traditional Maya way. And the Maya always open up the space by practicing gratitude and by setting intentions. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading this out loud. And I invite you to either read it out loud for yourself as well, if you feel like that's the way that's going to help you connect the most. And if you don't want to read it out loud for yourself, you can actually also just listen. But my invitation to you is to take a moment to just take a couple of deep breaths, maybe set intentions for yourself. Think about, why are you here? Why did you come to this 3-day Equinox challenge? What transformation or what change do you want to achieve during this energetic shift that's going to happen during the equinox? What would you like to take out of this? I can already tell you that this event is not only about learning about the Maya tradition, the Maya history, the Maya culture, but it's also an event about transformation, about achieving the things that we want to achieve, about entering this new cycle that the equinox brings, which is a cycle of kind of transitioning from the darkness into the light. So what are your intentions, and what do you want to achieve? If you would be able to transition from your personal darkness into the light, then what things would you be able to heal, or what things would you be able to achieve? So maybe set those intentions right now. And as you do that, I'm going to be reading this out loud, and then we're officially going to kick it off and actually start with today's event. So I'll ask you to just open your heart, take a deep breath, and just listen and think about whatever comes to your mind or whatever comes to your heart. So this is how it goes. At this moment, before beginning this conversation, we want to take some time to remember our creators and makers. Alom, Caholom, Sakol, Bitol, Tepeu, Gukumats, and show them our gratitude for giving us the gift of life. We say Matiosh Ukushkach, Matiosh Ukushuleu, heart of the sky, heart of the earth. Thank you to the energies of the 4 directions of the universe, the 4 elements, the 4 colors of corn, as well as their guardians. We especially call upon the energy of the word, so that all of the words that are shared here can be flourishing and help us connect to one another. We ask this energy that the words we put out with our voices are carrying and of value to the world. All right. Thank you guys for joining me in that moment of the invocation. And now I'm officially going to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. So my name is Sulvay Barrios, and I am the co-founder of the Mind Wisdom Project. The Mind Wisdom Project started approximately 5 years ago, and it was a project that I started with my dad, which is something that I'm really proud of, because for me personally, this whole project and everything that we do in it is my personal way to honor the legacy of my dad, who's unfortunately no longer with us. But everything that I know about the Maya tradition, everything that I know about Mayan wisdom, I feel very lucky to know, because it was maybe just the good luck that I had to be born my dad's daughter. For those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, my dad's name was Carlos Barrios, and he was a very renowned Mayan elder. He was very well known both in Guatemala and the world. He was part of the Council of Elders here in Guatemala. He practiced the Maya spirituality, and he was an Akij. Akij means a Maya spiritual leader for, well, more than 50 years. And so he started his journey very early on when he met his teacher in his 20s. And then when I was born, I was lucky enough that I got to travel all around Guatemala for my whole life since I was a baby, basically in his arms with my dad, and to meet I don't even know how many teachers of the Maya tradition, but we traveled the entire country and met so many Maya spiritual leaders, midwives, herbalists, healers, people who study the Maya tradition in different ways and practice different areas of the Maya tradition. And this is an experience that I feel so lucky and blessed that I had. And it's all thanks to him, all thanks to my dad. So I'm so lucky that I was able to start this project. But also, I feel very lucky not only because I was able to start the Mind Wisdom project with him, but the reason I was able to start this project with him, just briefly, is because of how much the practices that he had and that he shared with me that come from the Maya tradition, which, by the way, is an ancient tradition, it's a millenary tradition that dates back thousands of years. And just so you guys know, contrary to unfortunately popular belief, the Maya people and the Maya tradition are still 100% alive. It is an oral tradition that has been passed on from generation to generation for thousands, literally for thousands of years. And thanks to my dad, I was able to not only learn about this knowledge and this wisdom and these practices, but during some personal hard times in my life, this knowledge and this wisdom and these practices were actually very life-changing for me. And it is when they were life-changing for me that I realized, even though I was exposed to it my whole life, it was when they were truly life-changing for me that I realized just how advanced this technology, this medicine, these healing practices truly are. Because um, I'm of mixed background. And so my dad, he was born in Huehuetenango in a small community in a small town called Tacana. He's of Maya descent. And luckily, he was able to kind of really connect to all of his roots by, well, obviously 50 years, I just said, practicing and studying his own roots. But from my mom's side, even though she was born here in Guatemala too, we have European descent. And so for me, growing up was really weird and interesting because I have like this mixed backgrounds. I always felt like I'm part of two completely different worlds, you know? One side of my family represented like this indigenous ways, this indigenous wisdom, and the other part of my family was just very kind of the average modern Western way of living, let's say, you know? And so I was always feeling like I'm split in two. As a child, you know, I was able to, as I mentioned, travel with my dad and truly experience the Maya tradition. But then I went through that weird time we all go through when I became a teenager. And here in Guatemala, unfortunately, there's a lot of discrimination against the Maya people. And there's a lot of discrimination also against not only the people, but the spirituality, the traditions, the culture, and the practices that they do. So for us, religion was imposed since the time of the invasion, and that one of the things that you hear, because Guatemala is such a religious country, is that anything that comes from the Maya tradition is blasphemous or satanic or evil or all kinds of stuff. So as I grew up, when I was a teenager, I used to get bullied a lot because everybody told me my dad's a witch. so, so oftentimes I was trying to like not mention what he does or hide what he does. And luckily, thanks to my dad and my mom and my family, because I used to go to like a very normal Guatemalan school. When I turned 13 years old, my dad always told me, you know, that the best thing that he can inherit me is a really good education. But up until the time I was 13 years old, I did not actually have that because my family didn't have a lot of money when we were growing up. And in countries like Guatemala, in order to have a really good education, you need to be very wealthy because you need to be able to afford going to a private school that is just so crazy in Guatemala. Like the average tuition for a really good private school is around $1,000 a month. In Guatemala, the minimum wage is also $400 a month, you know? So basically, it's almost impossible for an average normal person to be able to access that good education. But my dad and my mom and my family fought a lot so that me and like my niece, my nephew, the people in my family were able to actually go there. And we ended up getting a scholarship to go to an international school, which is the reason I even speak English in the first place anyways. But because of it, I got really exposed to this very modern Western way of thinking and living. It was like amazing because I got an amazing education, but at the same time, I entered this world of this mindset of either you're number one or you're zero. And you're not worth it if you're not number one. Competition, competition, burnout, work, work really hard, hustle, hustle, hustle. And you're kind of a loser if you don't achieve the very Western modern way of thinking of what success is supposed to look like, right? And so in this time of my life, as a teenager, when as a teenager, you know how you think and you know how you are, right? I got exposed to and surrounded by people who were extremely wealthy, to an education that was all about achieving like the modern Western way of what success is supposed to look like. I honestly, because I was a teenager, even started to be kind of embarrassed by my roots and like the things that my dad did because they were completely the opposite of what like this modern school was teaching me was actually how you're supposed to live life. And so I separated a lot from like my roots and what I learned as a kid. And I started to dream about, I don't know, going to an Ivy League school, becoming hyper rich, having a nice car, a nice house, a nice watch, fancy clothes. And that became like, I don't know, moving to Europe or I don't know. And so basically, I actually, you know, it was difficult for me at that time because as I said, my family didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't actually get any of those things that I wanted, which was really frustrating for me. So at the end, super randomly, because I married a German guy who everybody probably knows that. He helps a lot. Maybe you've seen him in customer service sometimes, my husband, Martin. I actually was able to move to Europe for a few years. And in a way, I felt like that shattered my perspective of the Western world. No offense if you're German. I love you, Germans. I love Germany too. I lived there for a few years. But I was so shocked when I was finally able to like achieve this dream of moving to Europe and whatnot, because I realized everything looks so nice and fancy and shiny from the outside. Everybody achieves the same dream that I was taught is what's going to actually make you successful and happy, like have the nice house, the nice car, the nice job, the nice everything, you know? And then, you know, I got to travel a little bit like to Norway, to Germany, to a lot of like the Northern European countries. And but then after a while there, I started to realize how many people struggle with depression. I also realized that a lot of the times in these cultures, people spend a lot of time complaining. Again, no offense to the Germans in the room, but people spend a lot of time just complaining about everything. And then I started daydreaming about coming back to Guatemala because here everybody's just really joyful all the time, socializing all the time. Everything is a lot messier. People have a lot more issues and trouble, but I never saw depression at such high rates like I did in Europe. I actually even experienced, you know, seasonal depression, and for the first time in my life, I felt actually depressed myself, but like for real depressed, you know. And I was like, what's happening to me? This is like not normal for me. And so then I realized everything that this Western world has to offer, oftentimes we go to the societies that represent what the modern Western way of living is, but we find so much depression, we find so many issues, we find so many things like the cultures being so much colder and individualistic and not thinking about the community and a lot more loneliness and all kinds of things that for me and maybe for every Latin American in the room are like really weird things, you know, we're like, what's happening, you know, because usually for us, family, having fun is so important, improvising, like I just go out every day and I improvise my days. Everything is kind of messy, but also you know, something that shocks me about Guatemala, which is where I'm from, is we're in all the bad lists of the world. So most corrupt countries, some of the biggest rates of malnutrition, you know, like violence, like all the bad stuff, all the bad lists where you don't want to be at. But weirdly, we're also in another list, and that list is actually happiest countries in the world. And so it's so weird because we're these countries that have like highest poverty rates, highest like issues, political problems and everything, but we're also the happiest countries in the world. And some of the wealthier countries that have everything have the highest depression rate. So I started to ask myself, like, what's happening? You know, like you guys supposedly already achieved everything. And often I would even get angry. I was like, how are you guys complaining? You already have everything. Like, what are you guys complaining about? Like, go to Guatemala and live like a lot of people live there and then complain if you want to, but you already have all the security. And so that was really shocking for me. Also, I went through a lot of trauma during like a lot of time in my life, like my teenage years, my early life, adult life, and whatever. But like really, really, really bad stuff happened to me. And then I came to this point where I was really lost. And so my solution was coming back to my dad and to my roots, coming back to Guatemala. I moved back into his house and he helped me so much, but it was not just him, even though he was the most amazing human being you ever could have met in your entire life. But it was all of these practices. And then I realized that this thing that is part of me that I forgot about for so long, which is the Maya tradition and Maya wisdom, is so powerful because I had already tried the Western way of healing myself, but then the Maya way of healing myself was so efficient, so simple yet so profound, so life-changing. It was beyond just feeling a little bit better. It was an absolute transformation of actually living with purpose, being fulfilled, not only healing trauma and fears and feeling a little bit okay or okay enough to get through life. It was truly about, I don't even know how to express it in words, but like just truly about like true mental health, true physical health, true spiritual health, true emotional health, true living with purpose, true good relationships with the people around me and my community. And that's why when the opportunity came to start the Mind Wisdom Project, I thought not only is it a great chance to share Maya wisdom, which is so profound in an authentic way, because unfortunately spirituality is becoming trendy, which is a double-edged sword. Is good because I feel like the world really needs that connection to nature, that respect, that harmony nowadays. But also when things become trendy, it also opens up the space for people sharing things without permission or in an incorrect way, right? And so it was a cool opportunity to just share the wisdom through spiritual leaders, teachers of the Maya tradition in a way that is actually authentic and respectful and that we have permission for. But also for me, it was about like, oh my God, if this is what I could achieve with this myself, how cool would it be to have an impact in the world and help other people achieve that too. So that's who I am. Again, my name is Ulva Barrios. My dad's name was Carlos Barrios. And that's why we're here, because my dad and I kind of just started this from a small idea 5 years ago. And now here we are. So now, talking a little bit more about Mayan wisdom, I actually want to get into the topic of something. The first thing I wanted to do today, because today is going to be all about more just an introduction to who are the Maya, what Maya wisdom is. I just wanted to start by debunking already and changing your mind about something big, which is a big question. Is Mayan wisdom primitive? And I have a lot of stuff to say about that. So let me say a couple of things. So, okay. The Maya world, you know, you probably heard that phrase, right? That quote of like, who writes history? The winners, right? And I just mentioned how when I was a kid, I went to a school that was not that great, but it was just your average Guatemalan school, right? And I'll never forget how angry I was as a kid at school and how often I used to pick up fights with my teachers because I was raised by my dad. My aunt, my uncle are also my spiritual leaders, so I was exposed to like all of this information of the culture and the history of the Maya tradition. And then I would sit at school and learn about my own culture, which is the Maya tradition, from history books that are official history books that every single school in Guatemala gets. And it's not only the books that we read in school, it's the general information that you'll find if you read most books about Maya wisdom or most articles or most information that the archaeologists, the historians, the anthropologists wrote about the Maya tradition and the Maya wisdom. And I would often be shocked at how incorrect the information in those books is, all I heard as a child learning about the Maya tradition in Guatemala, which is the heart of the Mayan world, um, was wrong information. For example, the Mayans were polytheists, which, by the way, they were not. So I was like, how did we get like the main most important thing wrong already? Like that's already a bad start. But also, oh, when the Spanish came here, when the Spaniards came here, the Maya were a completely uncivilized society. And the Spaniards were able to trick the Mayans so easily because the Maya had never seen a mirror before. So they showed the Maya mirrors, and the Maya were so impressed by these mirrors that in exchange, they were happy to just gift all of their gold to the Spaniards. And they knew nothing. They were uncivilized people who could barely function as a society because they were living in such a primitive way. And as I kept on reading this, I was so angry because I was like, this is not true. Like, what? Who wrote this book? Like, I'm like, who came up with this, you know? This is absolutely the opposite of what is true. And so because this is a misconception and so much of the misinformation that in the modern world nowadays we have access to about the Maya tradition, I just wanted to cancel that right now and debunk that and tell you who the Maya actually were. The Maya were one of the most advanced set of nations in the history of the world. First of all, the Maya are divided into different Maya nations. The Maya reside in the region of Latin America, which is called Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica consists of the south of Mexico, all of Guatemala, all of Belize, and parts of Honduras and parts of El Salvador. And so in this region, which is called Mesoamerica, the Maya resided for literally so many thousands of years. And from the beginning of their societies, of their nations, the Maya are divided into many nations. As I said, in Guatemala, we have more than 20 different Maya nations. So it's not like the Maya were one single nation. It was like there's in Guatemala, for example, we have the Maya Cachiquel, Maya Quiche, the Sutuiles, the Mames, the Quechíes, and I can keep going, but it's a long, long list, so I'm not going to keep going. Every single one of these Maya nations has their own languages. They have their own traditions, like culinary traditions. They have a few differences, of course, including mainly their languages, but in general, the Maya all kind of have in common the Maya tradition, the Maya belief, the same spirituality, the science in common, because all of the Maya nations in Mesoamerica were sharing for thousands of years with each other the wisdom that they had with each other. And different nations often specialize more in one topic than the other, but overall, they all share the same wisdom. Something that's impressive is you can travel to the south of Guatemala or to the north of Guatemala, and you can meet an Arquij in the south of Guatemala, and you can meet an Arquij in the north of Guatemala, and they will tell you the oral tradition and their history and their story in the exact same way, literally word by word. And when I say the word literally, I'm not even exaggerating, word by word. The Maya have passed on their tradition orally for thousands of years and is transmitted from generation to generation in a way that is so incredibly impressive. It's like how, for me, it's like, how is it even possible, that it's word by word by word, every single aspect of the tradition. The Maya, since ancient times, and of course, they were so advanced because if you think about the modern Western world, like when did we really start to develop in the modern Western world, medicine and science and all of those different things? We're like, it's a few hundred years old, really, the modernity that we're so used to in today's time. But the Maya, unlike in the modern Western world, started developing their science, their medicine, their mathematics, their astronomy, their architecture, every single one of those areas thousands and thousands of years ago. So in a way, they had a head start because they had thousands of years of generations of scientists, of doctors, of spiritual leaders, of midwives, of experts in just literally neuroscience, astronomy, mathematics. And when I say experts, I do not say that lightly. Okay, the Maya have the most mathematically advanced calendar in the history of the world. And when you hear that, you might be like, okay, I don't even know what that means, but I'll explain you what that means because it's wild, okay? It's crazy. So imagine the Gregorian calendar. And if you don't know what that is, the Gregorian calendar is the calendar that we use in the modern day world. So in the Gregorian calendar, today's Wednesday, right? I think today's Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, the 19th of March of 2025, right? That's the date on the Gregorian calendar. The Maya calendar, though, is different because the Maya, for them, their calendar did not consist of one single calendar. It was the intertwining of more than 25 different calendars that intertwined together to perfection, kind of like a Swiss clock, that worked together with each other to perfection. And you know how, for example, in our Gregorian calendars, days repeat themselves every 365-ish days, right? So, for example, today is the 19th of March. And in 365 days from now, what date is it going to be? Again, the 19th of March. So the date will repeat itself. And then 1 year after that, 365 days after that, what date is it going to be again? Again, it's going to be the 19th of March. So every 365-ish days, the date repeats itself in the Gregorian calendar. Do you want to know how often the date repeats itself, the actual specific date repeats itself in the Mayan calendar? Every 5,200 years. They have 5,200 years worth of unique specific dates. It's a cycle of 13 baktunes, where days are specifically unique before we go back to the beginning of the calendar and days finally start to repeat themselves again. Now, taking advantage that I just mentioned the baktunes, let me mention another little thing that, that is a little frustrating. So basically, I'm sure you guys all heard that stuff, right? Of 2012 being the end of the world. I'm sure everybody heard it. There were like apocalypse movies being made about it, and the History Channel really loved, hyping that stuff up. And I don't know. And it's so unfortunate because the Maya actually never, ever, 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 nobody ever said that 2012 was going to be the end of the world. I'm not even going to get into who made that up, by the way, because I'm going to get really rattled up and we're just going to have to, I'll waste 20 minutes of today's session, talking about it. But it was really frustrating because I remember during that time, not only my dad, but so many Maya spiritual leaders were trying to be like, hey, hello, we never said that. Can you guys stop saying that? We never said that. But something interesting did happen on the 21st of December of 2012. And it was actually that cycle of 5,200 years where days don't repeat themselves actually ended on that date. And the new season, let's say, or a new cycle of the calendar started. We cumplimos. We came to finishing a cycle of 13 baktunes, which 13 baktunes together account for approximately 5,200 years. And we started the calendar from zero again. So it was not the end of the calendar. It was not the end of the world. It was just the end of one cycle of the Mayan calendar and the beginning of a new cycle of the Maya calendar. So that's what that was all about. But back to topic, the Maya had, again, as I was just mentioning, the most mathematically advanced calendar in the history of the world. Maya mathematics are so complex in the modern day world. We have engineers, and my dad was even trying to collaborate with some of them, mathematicians. Like my dad used to work with like university teachers in different universities of Guatemala who were like the teachers had PhDs and stuff on mathematics and engineering and all kinds of different things. And they would just sit down together trying to figure out the equations and the complexity of Maya mathematics, because in the modern day world, we're struggling with even figuring out the way the Maya mathematics work because they were so complex. I can't even express how complex and advanced they were. and how they used and implemented those mathematics in their scientific discoveries is absolutely mind-blowing. Okay, at the time where the Spanish came here, approximately 500 years ago, not too long ago, like not too long before that, people in Europe were thinking the earth was flat, you know? And in the Maya tradition, they had all of these calendars that were not only measuring the movements of the earth around the sun, like in Europe, everybody was like, Galileo, what are you talking about? Isn't the earth the center of the solar system? And the Maya had already for thousands of years at that point not only known that the sun is the center of the solar system, they were measuring the cycles of the earth around the sun, but not only of the earth, they were measuring the cycles of almost every single planet in the solar system around the sun. They had entire calendars that were devoted to measuring the transits of Venus. Venus for the Mayans was one of the most important planets to measure. So they were measuring the cycles and the transits of Venus. They were measuring the cycles of all of the different planets. You know what's wild? They went beyond the solar system and they were aware, and there's calendars that were measuring different events that were happening around the entire galaxy. They were aware of the Milky Way. Okay, people in Europe were like, oh, the earth is flat. If we come to the border, we'll just fall out, you know? And the Maya were like, did you know the Milky Way? You know what I mean? And so it's so ridiculous to me that when we read history books about the Maya and the Maya tradition, we're being told, and not only the Maya, by the way, all of the indigenous nations of Avia Yala, all of the originary peoples of Avia Yala, the Maya were not the only advanced ones. All of Avia Yala refers to the continent, by the way, all of the Americas from north to south were basically equally advanced, you know, like they kind of excelled in different areas, but they were equally advanced in so many ways, like scientifically, in medicine, in all kinds of ways. And so to me, to know this and to read, right? Like in my history books at school, like, oh, they were so impressed by mirrors, they just gifted all the gold, is like, why would you, you know, like, why would you not do them justice, right? That's just math, guys. Think about architecture, like the architectural intelligence of the Maya is so profound. Well, obviously, we've all probably heard about the pyramids and stuff. So they built these incredibly massive structures that were not only architecturally super incredible, like just to be able to build them in the first place, but they were architecturally perfect too, because if you go to Oaxactún, for example, or if you go to Mexico, to Chichen Itza in Mexico, you know, if you go to Mexico, to Chichen Itza, tomorrow, actually, if you're in Mexico, go to Chichen Itza. So tomorrow, actually, during solstices and equinoxes, they built one of the pyramids in Chichen Itza. It's called the Pyramid of Kukulkan. And at the specific hour that the equinox or that the solstice happens, the pyramid breaks in half. Half of the pyramid is fully lit by sunlight, and the other half is fully in the shadow. And there's a specific moment where this like optical illusion happens, where it looks like the sun, rays of sun are falling through the stairs of the pyramid, and they end in this massive snake head that the Maya built there out of stone, you know? And so and that's why it's called the Pyramid of Kukulkan. Kukulkan is the feathered snake. And for the Maya, the connection to the feathered snake, which is a sacred concept in the Maya tradition, is very connected to solstices and equinoxes. So you had to be so precise to build that pyramid exactly in the perfect spot, so that exactly at the exact hour and minute where the equinox happens, you get this crazy light show, right? If you go to Oaxactún, the entire site is basically a map to see where we're at in time, you know? So there's all these pyramids that tell you exactly where in time you're at. And they measure, for example, also solstices and equinoxes, because there's also a light show that happens in each one of there's 4 pyramids. One is like showing you the spring equinox, which is tomorrow, right? Another is showing you the summer solstice. Another is showing you that you are in the fall equinox, and another one is showing you that you're in the winter solstice. And then is this whole thing, right? So architecturally speaking, not only were they able to build this incredible things, but they were able to also make them connected to astronomical events. They were able to copy constellations of stars and reflect them in the pyramidal. Like there, it's exactly like the pyramids are built sometimes in connection to specific sets of stars. I mean, and not only that, but is not only the architecture of the super big structures, but even the architecture of the homes in which people lived in were super eco-friendly, right? Like the adobe houses, which used wood, straw, all kinds of things, but they had natural ventilation systems. The windows were built in a super specific way so that the airflow in your house is super clean, so that when it's hot, your house is cold. When it's cold, your house is hot, warm. I mean, uh, like they had all of this entire system of like how to honor the earth through your house. And just in the area of Petén, for example, in Guatemala, 4 million people inhabited there, and they all lived in this style of houses that the idea is those houses are so strong they can stand for hundreds of years, but also the day we are gone and we don't need them anymore, they're just going to collapse back into the earth and nobody will ever even know there was a house there because they were made of 100% natural materials. And so everything was so perfectly well thought of. And in that way, the Maya were so intentional. They had thousands of years of written history of medicine. I mean, I'm not even going to get into medicine, but just Google Maya dentistry and tell me it's not equally or maybe even more advanced than modern dentistry. And just telling you the story of medicine in the Maya tradition, the medicine here was so incredibly advanced and is still so incredibly advanced because it hasn't been lost, that people here were like living to be centenarians. In Europe at that time, people were dying in their 40s because medicine was so unadvanced. And here people were living to be 80, 90, 100 years old easy. But not only that, super physically strong and mentally present, right? And so who was more advanced and why is history teaching us like that the Maya were so uncivilized and savages and unadvanced and all of this? Because that is simply not true. To me, the biggest tragedy of the history of the invasion when the Spaniards arrive here in this continent is, well, there's a lot of tragedies actually. There's not one, like the entire thing was just a massive tragedy, right? Because they stole so much of the all of the gold, but not all of the gold. Canada is still making sure to steal the little bit left that we have left, But basically, um, the idea is that when they came here, they were so focused on only stealing gold. So many of the people here died because the Spaniards brought all these viruses with them and all this illness with them that people here didn't have. Like, it was so new here, people's bodies couldn't fight it. But the rest was just like literally people were enslaved, the women were raped, like there's all these books that you can read, like you can even read it in the Popol Vuh itself, like all the history of like the people being enslaved, being forced to work in these difficult jobs. But if you know that history too, you know that the people in the nations of this continent, not only the Maya, you know, um, basically receive the Spanish like, hey, welcome, like let's share, because that was a tradition. Because in the ancient times, the ancient civilizations that existed here throughout the continent would actually meet with each other. Like there were travelers and they would move around the whole continent and they would not be like, oh, you're not welcome here. They would be like, hey, welcome, and also here's the wisdom that we can share with you. Here's the knowledge that we can share with you. What wisdom can you share with us? What knowledge can we share with us? What goods can we share with you? And what goods can you give us in exchange? And so when the Spanish came here, the people had that mindset and they were like, cool, what can we share with you? What can you share with us? But the Spanish and the Europeans didn't come here with that mindset of, oh yeah, let's culturally share. It was the opposite. They came here with the idea of stealing, stealing everything that we had in the side of the continent, which is I'm sorry to say this, but which is why I'm kind of pissed off every time I go to Spain and I see so many Plaza de Cristobal Colón, there's so many parks where they honor Christopher Columbus. And I'm like, guys, what are you doing? Because you don't understand like the genocide that actually happened here. But basically, what is crazy to me is there's this one week in Mesoamerica. It happened in the south of Mexico, to be specific. And I forgot right now, if anybody knows and can write it in the chat, there's a name for this week. I forgot it was like this, they named this week. The Spanish gathered all of these ancient books, all of the codices that they could find in of different Maya nations. They gathered thousands, tens of thousands of books, and codices. And in the books, there was written history, culture, spirituality, science, medicine, all kinds of different things. And they created this massive fire and they burnt the books. The city where I live, for one entire week, there were so many books that they had to light that fire for one entire week to burn all of the books. In Guatemala or today, out of all of the ancient codices that we had, there are 3 remaining. And they're in Dresden in Germany, one is in Madrid in Spain, and the other one is, where's the other one? I can't remember where the other one is, but those codices are like the last little thing that we have left, and they're so profound. Almost all of the Maya tradition that we have, like a lot of the information of the Maya tradition that we have comes from those codices, because one single codice explored so much. The Dresden codice in Germany, for example, it explores what I was telling you, the calendar that measures the transit of Venus, as well as other things, and it's super mind-blowing and super interesting to study. So if you ever go to Dresden, go look at it, but maybe Germany bring it back to Guatemala. I don't know. Basically, the thing is, like, for me, what is so shocking, but I mean shocking, is what kind of culture do you have to have? What kind of society do you have to be to come to a place to discover there are entire civilizations, to discover an entire new continent where you come there and you see, oh my goodness, these people have their own astronomy, their own mathematics, their own science, their own medicine, their own history, their own everything. How about we don't burn those books? How about we read those books? How about we actually learn, like, what did they discover? Imagine if instead of stealing the gold, the Spanish would have just been interested in the books. What would the modern Western world look like? How much more advanced would science be today? How much more advanced would medicine be today? How much more advanced would everything be today if instead of burning the knowledge, they would have thought, wait, there's this new entire civilization available to us that has already spent a few thousand years discovering all of these things. How about we study it and learn from it and share with them what we figured out, Instead, they burnt it in my town, in the city where I live, Um, in the Central Park, for example, it's known that the Spanish here also used to light a lot of fires to burn all the books that they found. And you know what's so messed up about it? Not only the burning of the books, but they would literally tie the indigenous people up to poles and make them watch as their books were being burned. How what, like, what, why? And like, that's so weird. Like, it's so, why would you do that? That was like, how can you enjoy that? Like, yeah, it's cruel, it's evil, it's inhuman. Yeah, it's everything that everybody's writing in the chat right now. So basically, the reason I wanted to start with this is I want to take away from your head. So tomorrow, when the tata comes, the aquí that's going to do the spiritual practice comes, I wanted to take away from your head the misperception or the misinformation that the Maya tradition, the Maya culture is in any way, shape, or form primitive, is the opposite of primitive, is extremely, extremely advanced, extremely technologically advanced, medicinally advanced, spiritually advanced in every single way. And not only were they so advanced and figured all of this out, they also figured out other things that the modern Western world has not figured out, including, oh, let's not destroy nature. So let's be comfortable and actually figure all of the science, medicine, everything out, but let's also live in harmony with nature, which is something that we're really missing today. So let me move on to the next topic because I got a little too excited talking about this. Um, but yes, let's move on to the next topic, which is actually perfect because it's about the Western world versus the Maya world. And when I say Western world, the screen looks weird to the technical person. Just sorry. I don't know if you guys can see that well. Yeah? Does the slide look good for you guys? Yes, say thumbs up so I can see you. Yeah, okay. It's okay, perfect. Yeah, for me it also looks really small. Yeah, it's strange. Maybe technical person, we can just try to share it again. Okay, now it worked. Cool. So this refers to the modern Western worldview and versus the Maya geocosmovision. So in the modern Western worldview, individuals prioritize their own desires and achievements, right? And it's what I was sharing before. Like the modern way of living is, according to the Maya, this is such a disbalanced way of living life to be so individualistic and only think about ourselves because in the Maya geocosmovision, it's a community prioritizing the well-being of the whole. But not only is it a community that only works for the community, for the Maya, the basis is we actually worry a lot about individuals. So the whole system of community building from the Maya is based on how can we make 100% sure that every single individual is okay. And by okay, I mean really okay, like mentally super healthy and stable psychologically, physically really healthy and stable, and has access to healthcare to make sure that they're super okay physically. How can we make sure they're emotionally super okay? How can we make sure they're spiritually balanced? Why? Because the Maya believe that individuals are the ones who form communities. They believe you're going to get married, maybe, you're going to have children, maybe. And if you are not okay, your relationship is not going to be okay. And then you're going to have children. And if both of the parents of those children are not okay, the children are going to grow up not okay. And then you have an entire family that is not okay. And that family is a part of system of many families that form the community. And if every individual is not doing well, every family is not going to be doing well, and every part of the community is not going to be doing well. So the Maya believe we have to look at ourselves as individuals and provide the individuals with amazing like care so that everybody's okay, so that you're okay, your partner is okay, your children are okay, your family is okay, all the families that form a community are okay, and all of those communities that form a society are okay. And so basically, that's the system of creating community for the Maya. And it's also about individual care and community care, but not in the way the modern Western world looks at it, which is just like me. I only care about myself. And also, I feel like the Western world is not really caring about the well being of all of the individuals that form part of this society. So, the next one is nature is a resource to be exploited. Is unfortunately a big thing that the modern world believes in. But that is not true. In the Maya tradition, we're interconnected with nature, right? And so for the Maya, the basis of their entire tradition, I dare say, is one of the most important areas of their tradition is nature first, we second, you know? Anything that you do in the life, they have something, for example, that's called the world system. And the world system is whatever you do in your life as an individual, whatever any political group does, whatever any business owner does, whatever anybody does has to follow the rules of the world system. And the world system, to super oversimplify it because it's a really complex concept, consists of asking yourself three important questions. Number one, is what you're doing going to affect any community, even if it's not your own community, even if it's the members of another community? If the answer is yes, it's literally illegal to do it. Literally, you will get kicked out of your community for doing it. Not only you, your descendants, your children and your grandchildren, and everybody will be punished if you did something that will have a negative impact on any community. The number two is Will this affect the next 500 years of generations of people yet to come negatively? If the answer is yes, it's literally, again, illegal to do it. And the third question, which is connected to what I'm talking about right now, is will what you are doing, is what you're doing going to have a negative impact on the planet, on the earth? And if the answer is yes, again, it's illegal to do it. But this is one of the strongest laws, you know? And so basically, imagine if like in the modern Western world, this was like if the law was so strict and the punishment was so huge that the massive corporations and companies would have to abide by this and they couldn't hurt people, hurt the planet, or even hurt the future generations, then we would live in a very different world, right? But oftentimes the modern world is like doing the opposite, is like hurting communities, hurting the planet, and hurting the future generations to come. So these are absolute opposites, right? In the in the Maya, in the modern Western worldview, the calendar just is helping to keep track of time and just helping us be more efficient, like the Gregorian calendar. In the Mayan world, the calendars, which, as I said, are so complex, are helping us to be connected to every part of life. There is even a calendar that is called the Cholquij calendar, and is referred to often as the human level calendar, and it's one of the most famous calendars because we follow it on a daily basis. It's made up of 20-day cycles. So like, you know, in the Western, in the Gregorian calendar is like a month is like 30, 31 days, right? In the Maya, the Turkish calendar is like 20-day cycles, let's say, or 20-day months. I guess you could, we don't really call them months, but I guess you could picture it kind of like as a month, right? And every single day has a purpose in the same way that, for example, if you imagine the week, my cousin Yamanik explained it really well. She said, imagine if the Gregorian calendar worked with it like the Cholquij. So in one small way it does. Everybody knows that Sunday, for example, commonly is a day where we rest, right? Everybody's like, okay, today's Sunday, everybody's resting. We all agree today we don't have to work. It's a day for rest. Monday is a day for work, right? And so we all know Monday, go back to the office, go back to work, go back to being productive. Okay, the Turkish calendar is exactly like that, but like times 100 is like in a much deeper way. Every single day has a meaning. There are days for rest, there are days for productivity, but not only that, there are also days for healing, days for for working on our relationships, days for forgiveness, days where we care for nature, all kinds of days. Anyways, in the Maya tradition, becoming a whole, fulfilled, purposeful human being, the word for it is to become a hun winak. Hun means one, winak means 20. The Cholquij calendar is made up of 20-day cycles. So the Cholquij calendar is literally considered medicinal. By following this calendar, you're healing yourself and you're coming closer to having a purposeful whole life. So that's the big difference, right? Then in the modern Western worldview, spirituality is often forgotten and separated from daily life. And in the Maya geocosmovision, spirituality is deeply integrated into daily life. And what is spirituality for the Maya? Spirituality for the Maya is, well, a deep topic, and I can't really describe it all in 1 minute, but I'll try to kind of, give you some bullet points. It means to be balanced, right? It means to practice gratitude. It means every day you wake up and you feel grateful for your life, and every morning you take some time to light a candle with the first rays of sunlight to thank the creators of your existence. And in the Maya tradition, who are those creators? The ones who enable your life. Who enables your life? For example, the water enables your life. Why? Because you could not exist without it. Literally, you would die if there was no water. As I said, the water cannot live without you. I'm sorry, the water can live without you, but you can't live without the water. You cannot live without the air, but the air can live without you. You cannot live without the sun. We literally could not exist without the sun, but the sun can exist without us. So the Maya believe it's important to acknowledge that gratitude, to have a life that is filled with purpose, to make sure that you're not going to leave this world and your life was irrelevant, but that you leave it at least a tiny bit better than how you found it. Um, well, irrelevant is bad, but much worse would be to leave it worse than how you found it. That would be really tragic. So for the Maya, this is not just something that we think about from time to time. It rules the actions of our life, of our daily day-to-day life, and that's really important. And in the Western world, we rarely think about these kinds of things, you know, and so our connection to nature, living in harmony, having purpose in life, being fulfilled, you know, being balanced. And so that's a big difference, but it's a big gap or hole that the modern Western world has. And finally, the goal in the Western world is often economic growth and success, is fame, is power, is all of those things. And in the Maya Cosmovision, the goal of life is to live with harmony and to live with purpose. As I just was describing a few moments ago, that's the key to life. That's the key to happiness, is the key to health, is the key to everything. If you have a purposeful life, if you're in harmony with yourself and with nature and with existence, that's what's up, you know? So I actually was thinking, how can I really make you understand the big difference, right? Mm, especially because I just told you a little bit about my life story. And I've experienced both sides, obviously, right? Like the Western side and Maya side of living. And like, so I've been to both extremes in a way. And so I wanted to kind of give you guys a little exercise that we could do right now, thinking maybe it's going to help you visualize the big difference, but also ask yourself the question, in which way do I want to live on a personal way? Regardless of where you live in the world, right? Because maybe you do live in a very Western country like the States, or I don't know, you're a European country, I don't know. But it doesn't mean that you can't actually put these practices into practice in your life, right? And so, as I mentioned, for the Maya, what we prioritize in community building is individuals, right? And the Maya truly believe that in order to be a better member of your community, you can't start with your community. You can't start with society. You can't start with the entire world, much less, but you actually have to start with yourself. When you're okay, when your partner is okay, when your children are okay, when your family is okay, then after that, you're able to actually have a better impact. And for the Maya, the point of life is to have a purposeful life. But for that, we have to achieve a few things first. And those things refer to health. But for the Maya, health is very holistic. It's not like, am I not sick right now physically or ill physically? That's not the whole meaning of health for the Maya. For the Maya, health refers to mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, purpose in life, all kinds of things, harmony with nature, all kinds of things. So I edited a meditation that my dad used to love guiding, because I needed to make it like a million times shorter, because otherwise we'd be meditating for 40 minutes now, but we don't have the time to do that. So I was like just shortening as much as I could, and I made it a few minutes. If you guys want to join me, close your eyes and just sit where you are, get comfy. I'll try my best to guide it, and just, you know, shake it out, get comfy, close your eyes, and then we're gonna just get started. And I'll just ask you a few questions, and that's the reflection that I want to do, is for you to answer these questions and kind of help you through that practice that my dad used to guide sometimes, come up with where are you at really? Because for the Mayans, the key is for you to be okay. And oftentimes we don't even think, am I okay? We don't even ask ourselves the question. Such a simple question, but also so important. Am I really okay? Am I actually okay? And so, in the spirit of comparing the Western modern way of living and the ancient Maya geocosmovision, I wanted to just see if we could do a little something, something. So, close your eyes, please, and I'll guide a little meditation for you guys. So, just to set the mood, maybe we can actually begin by taking a couple of deep breaths. So, just take a deep breath in, hold it for a few seconds, and when you're ready, breathe out. Let's do that again. Take another deep breath in, Hold it for a few seconds and out. Okay. Relax your body. If there's any tension in any part of your body, try to release it. And now here's what I want you to start imagining or visualizing. Just imagine an empty room right now. Visualize an empty room. Okay. And now I want you to imagine that you can see yourself standing in the center of that empty room. The key is I want you to imagine yourself standing in the middle of this empty room exactly as you are right now. And one very important thing, let's throw something out the window, and that thing is judgment. Let's not judge ourselves. Let's just imagine ourselves realistically in the way in which we currently are and take a good look at ourselves, but without judging ourselves, without any negative feelings, just in a very objective way. Spend a few moments trying to get that visualization on. Start looking at yourself, walk around yourself a little. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay. Now I'm going to start asking you some questions, and I want you to answer them honestly, again, without judgment. We're going to travel through 4 important areas of ourselves that the Maya believe are the key to how we are actually doing and whether we're doing okay or not, and whether we're healthy or not. So the first question I have for you is take a look at yourself in the middle of that empty room and ask yourself, is that person standing in front of me healthy? Is that person standing in front of me healthy, both inside and outside? Look at, for example, your posture. Do you have a good posture? Do you exercise and are you physically fit? Look inside of your body. Take a little bit of a trip inside of your body and ask yourself, how is my body doing inside? What do you feed your body on a daily basis? What do you actually consume? Are those things healthy for you or not? Are your organs healthy? Is your gut healthy? How are you treating your body? Spend a few moments asking yourself, is that person standing in front of me healthy? I'll give you a few moments to do that. Okay. The next question is, now let's move on from physical health to another aspect of ourselves. I want you to take a look at that person that's standing right in front of you and ask yourself the question, is that person standing in front of me mentally okay? Is that person struggling with, I don't know, depression or stress or anxiety? How is the mind of that person doing? Is it overthinking? Is it overworked? Is it foggy? Is it burning out? Or is it okay? I'll give you a few moments to take a look inside of the mind of yourself as you're standing in front of you in that empty room. And again, without judgment, in a super honest way, answer the question, am I mentally okay? Okay. The next question is about a different aspect that the Maya believe is super important, and it's about our emotions. So I want you to ask yourself the question, is that person who's standing in front of me in this empty room emotionally okay? Are they happy, fulfilled? Are they living a life filled with purpose? Are they struggling with fears or traumas or stuck in their comfort zone and not even being able to move? Are they stuck or are they emotionally okay? Ask yourself that question and be honest. And the final question is that person standing in front of me spiritually balanced? And what does that mean in the Maya world? It means what I was mentioning earlier. It means you go through your day and you feel grateful every day when you wake up because you woke up. You feel grateful every day at night before you go to bed because you had another day. You think every day, wow, I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful for the water because I couldn't exist without it. It also means to be just balanced in general, not this balance, not living in extremes. For the Maya, it also means to have harmony and to be connected to nature. It means to live a purposeful life. So ask yourself, is that person in front of me living like that? Are they spiritually balanced or not? Okay. So now we went through the four areas that the Mayans considered if we're not okay in every single one of those areas, we're not okay. And now I want you to rewind and take a new journey through those four areas of yourself. But now imagine that magically we can fast forward for as long as you needed to, and you have now in front of you a person. It is still you, but it's a different person. The person standing in front of you has already worked really hard in all of these four areas. This person has already created for themselves their reality or the version of themselves that's the healthiest, the happiest, the most purposeful. And now ask yourself the question, what would this person in front of me, and you can start editing yourself really, look like if they were truly physically healthy, if they were fit, if they had good posture, if their internal body was healthy, their nervous system was okay, their circulatory system was completely okay, their respiratory system is okay, their brain is okay, their gut is okay, their muscles are strong, their bones are strong, they're flexible, they're strong. What does the person standing in front of you look like now that they're super healthy physically? I'll give you a few moments to visualize that. Now, imagine this person was able to truly heal themselves mentally. So they were able to overcome any psychological problems that they had. And by overcome, I don't mean escape or kill or destroy the darkness or the problems of the mind, but actually be able to give them love, those problems, to actually truly heal those areas, to really work on themselves psychologically. How would this person standing in front of you look mentally if they were truly mentally okay and mentally stable and mentally healthy? Now ask yourself, what would this person in front of me look like if they were emotionally okay, if they felt joyful, if they were living a life filled with purpose, a life where they feel fulfilled, a life where they're emotionally stable, where they're emotionally intelligent and mature and able to have really good emotional reactions to the different situations of life, responses better than reactions. What would this person look like if they were able to overcome or heal a lot of their fears or their traumas? What would this person look like if they were able to practice forgiveness, maybe for others, or practice forgiveness towards themselves? What would this person look like emotionally? And finally, what would the person standing in front of you look like if they were spiritually very balanced? What would they look like if they had a life that was very purposeful? What would they look like if they would experience gratitude in a really profound way every single day? If they were joyful, what would they look like if they spent time going out and truly having a deep connection to nature, put their feet in the ground, truly feel nature, even do good things for it? What would this person look like? Okay. Now do me a favor and take another big, deep breath. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes. Okay. My dad told me that sometimes we don't ask ourselves often enough, how are we doing really? And the modern way of living, individuals don't prioritize themselves in the way individuals should prioritize themselves. As we saw in the slide that I showed you before, we do prioritize ourselves a lot, but the modern Western world teaches us all about competition and success, like the modern version of success and being almost in a way selfish. The Maya tradition teaches us to prioritize ourselves for real, but in a way that is different, in a way in which we actually take the time to ask ourselves the questions as deep and as profound as, who am I really? Am I actually doing okay? And the Maya believe that that's the key to living a good life, a purposeful life, a joyful life, a healthy life, to actually go into these four different areas, which are known as the four bodies. And the four bodies are physical and material, is one of them. Then the second one is mental. The third one is emotional. And the fourth one is spiritual. And it's only when we're able to work in all of those areas that we're actually able to achieve true health. And in order to have purpose in our life, to have health, to have balance, to have good relationships, this is the basis, let's say, to being able to actually work on those, to be able to actually be, I don't know, have a good life in general, and to form better communities, to form better family circles, to form better communication. And so not only with the world around us, but with ourselves too. So I just kind of wanted to just share a little bit of that with you guys today, because today was the least practical day, in a sense, where we're doing a general introduction to Maya wisdom, but the next couple of days are going to be filled with a lot more practical things. But today was just introductory. So I wanted to at least add one little practice for today as we're preparing for the equinox. And now the next thing I'd like to talk to you about, and I'm going to show you a little drawing I found online about it, is the story of the people of wood. I'll talk about that for a few minutes. We're almost coming to the end, so stay with me for a few minutes longer, and I guess I'll give you some information as soon as I'm done with the story about how to prepare for the actual equinox, which is going to happen tomorrow. But just because we're making this comparison between the modern world and the ancient Maya world, I wanted to, of course, mention the people of wood. Everybody who knows the people of wood is probably thinking, yeah, that's obvious. This is the obvious story to share. So, but those of you who don't know, there's a story in the Maya oral tradition. And actually, not only in the oral tradition, we can read it in the Popol Vuh, which is the sacred book of the Maya Quiche people. The Popol Vuh tells us the story of creation. And I'm going to summarize it because it's a long story. But basically, the Maya say that before us came, I see somebody lifting up the Popol Vuh. That's very nice. The Maya say that before us came two different humanities, but they disappeared because they were unsustainable. So there were two civilizations or two humanities that came before us a long time ago. The first one, and their names are, think of their names that they were assigned as a metaphor for how their personalities were, or how they were as a society. So the first one were called the people of mud. And the people of mud were I'm not even going to mention them that much because it's not about them, but just in summary, they were kind of useless, right? They were all kind of dumb, kind of useless. So Didn't work out. They disappeared. Long story short, it's much deeper than that. Very summarized version of who they were. It's a civilization that disappeared because they were just not that bright. They were not that smart. They just didn't work out. Then came the next ones, the ones I want to talk to you about. The people of wood, the humanity of wood. Who are the people of wood? Okay, so because the first humanity failed, the people of mud were kind of dumb and useless. The next humanity had something that the people of mud did not have. And the creation thought these ones are actually going to be a success. The people of wood were very, very, very smart people. It was all about their brain. They were given the power of reason, the power of intelligence. I'm sorry, I don't know why that's happening, guys, but I'm gonna try. Technical people can try to figure out why there's a whiteboard on the screen right now. Okay. I'll just keep telling the story. No, wait, this is too distracting. I can't keep telling the story. Technical people figure out why the whiteboard got activated. Give me a second, guys. Okay, there we go. So, um, okay, yeah. So here's the people of wood again. So basically, the people of wood, what they had is they were very intelligent people. But often in the oral tradition, they're described as because they were made out of wood, and that's their like feature or the characteristic that describes them, they were very hard. Wood is not that flexible, so they were very unflexible, very hard people. Their faces showed no emotion or no expression. And even though their brain was big and useful and super smart, they really had one massive important thing that was really missing from them, and that was heart. That was spirit, that was emotion. So the people of wood were all brains, all strength, all hardness, but no heart, no spirit. So what happened? Because they were so smart, they were actually around for a while and they were able to develop themselves. Even the book, the Popol Vuh itself tells us that they spread all over the globe. They really reproduced those guys. And so basically, um, they went around, but the Maya believed that when we lack heart, when we lack spirit, something really bad happens to us, both as individuals as well as collectively. What happens is um, that basically the people of wood, they were not able to practice the key to life, which is gratitude. They were not grateful towards their creators. Who are the creators? The creators for the Maya are what I already mentioned: the water, the sun, the moon, the earth, the air, the fire, the plants, the trees, the forests, the jungles, the volcanoes, everything that exists in nature and outside, not only on the earth or inside of the earth, but also the solar system, right? Like the planets around us, everything is the creator, basically, to put it in simple words. And the Maya believe we cannot exist without those creators that enable our existence. Why do they believe that? Literally because we can't. Try existing without the sun. We would die if the sun would just disappear today. If the moon would disappear today, everything would go so out of balance. Like what would happen? If the air would disappear right now, all of us, every single person sitting in this room right now, or in this virtual room right now, would be dead within minutes. If the water would disappear right now, we'd be dead within days. And so basically, for the Maya, that's who the creators are. That's who enables our existence. And because they're so important, the creators, we have to never forget to be grateful, to never forget to respect the creators. And to respect the creators basically means to respect the creation. But the people of wood, they were not able to practice gratitude. They were not able to practice respect for their creators. They forgot the water is sacred because they were not able to practice gratitude for the water, so they lost respect for it. They forgot the trees are sacred. and they were not able to see how important the trees and how essential the trees are. They were so mean to the animals. Really, the animals were pretty pissed off at the end of the story because they were so mean to the animals, you know? They were so mean to all of creation. And because they forgot to practice gratitude for creation, they forgot to show respect to it. So in the Maya tradition, since everybody's a little kid, that's why we do the fire ceremonies. And tomorrow you're gonna get to witness a practice that is like kind of like a small fire ceremony. The fire ceremonies that everybody does literally at the latest every 20 days, but oftentimes way more often than every 20 days, are literally just you standing there for hours saying thank you. Thank you to the water, thank you to the air, thank you to the sun, thank you to the moon. For hours, literally hours. Since you're a kid, your dad is like, sit down. You have to say thank you to the water. Do you understand how important the water is? Say thank you to the air. Do you understand? And so eventually it hits you. You're like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And after 5 hours of saying thank you, eventually the gratitude actually hits you. And you're like, man, yeah, actually, thank you, because I'm literally alive. And that's so crazy. And thanks, water. I could not live without you. I couldn't live without you, air. I couldn't live without the V's, literally, you know? So um, because the people of wood didn't have this gratitude, this heart, this spirituality inside of themselves, they were very disrespectful. They started destroying the trees and just cutting them down. They started to see the trees as resources. They started to see the water as a resource that they can exploit. They started to see the plants, the animals, everything on the earth as a resource they could use for their own benefit and destroy. Sounds familiar? I don't know, probably. So basically, uh, one day, all of the creatures and the beings of the earth had a meeting, and they were like, guys, what are we gonna do about the people of wood? Because they're literally just destroying everything. They're crazy, these guys. Don't they see that by destroying everything, they're literally also killing themselves and destroying themselves? Like, so they're like, what are we gonna do? And so the beings of the earth, all of the energies of the creation decided we have to kill them. We have to destroy them because they're all going to die anyways. But not only are they going to die, they're going to kill everything alongside themselves as well. So if they're going to die anyways by destroying everything, we better kill them before they get a chance to destroy everything else. So the water flooded them, the animals, especially the dogs, were pretty pissed off, were biting them. Even their kitchen utensils were like their pans and pots were kicking them in the face, you know. So it was very intense. Their houses were crumbling on top of them. Eventually, they just went extinct because the entire creation came against them. And so the creation was like, okay, now if we want another humanity, they can't be like the people of wood anymore. And that's when the people of corn were created. We are the people of corn, the current humanity. The corn has four colors: red, black, yellow, and white. But all of the colors of corn is different tonalities of white, different tonalities of yellow, different tonalities of black, purplish colors, different tonalities of red, brownish colors, represent the colors of all of the different races of humanity, all of the different skin colors that we can have. They represent all of the corners of the four corners of the earth. They represent a lot of things. Corn, unlike wood, is not that hard. It's hard enough that it's resistant. And it's not like mud where the guys were kind of just melting around, but it's also not as hard as wood. It's hard enough, but soft enough. And so corn represents, uh, in the Maya tradition, like that balance, you know? And it represents the people of corn, what we had. The Popol Vuh refers to us as the children born in clarity. So they had brains too. We had brains too, but we also had heart. We had balance between brains and heart and spirit. And so the reason I tell you this story is because I feel like if you look at the history of the world, I feel like all ancient civilizations kind of had the same concept or idea of balance, of mind, but spirit, connection to nature and everything. And unfortunately, this modern Western way of thinking kind of invaded the whole planet, you know? And so now I feel like every day we're becoming more and more similar to the people of wood, but truly we shouldn't forget. No, we should remember. We definitely should remember. We shouldn't forget that we are not the people of wood, we are the people of corn. And so to finish today, I wanted to read you a quote from my dad's book, which I'll place on the screen right now. And it's literally the first paragraph of my dad's book. And I love it because it kind of puts together everything that I mentioned today, the introduction to Maya wisdom, which is just how we should actually live life. So, in my dad's words, he said, there is a place in the world where the meaning of creation remains intact. The magnificence of being, the essence and awareness of existence, and the knowledge of our life purpose are the roots of this safe haven. Alienation and aimlessness have been kept at bay. We can still feel the energies that traverse the infinite cosmos, those from the eternal fire in the heart of Mother Earth. Here, we teach our children to respect everything that exists because our grandfathers knew that nothing on this earth belongs to us. Everything was planted by the Great Father and the Great Mother, and there is a natural order that governs us. Carlos Barrios. Oof, it even gave me chills. So, um, I just thought that would be a good, positive, beautiful way to end it. And just before we close out, you guys are showing my dad's book. Okay, thank you. I love that. So, um, just to end it, I'll just remind you that tomorrow we meet at the same time as we met today. We're going to send information on how to access the recording in case you want to watch it again. I don't know if you do, but if you want to, or if you missed some parts of it, you can rewatch it. And also for the people, a lot of people were texting us, letting us know that they couldn't make it today. So we made sure to have a recording so that everybody gets to watch it today. It'll be up in like 1-2 hours-ish because of course we need to download it and upload it and everything. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed it today. Oh, I forgot that there was a question that I actually wanted to ask you. Maybe before we close it up, I'll just ask it. I'm really curious to know, what do you guys think? Are we more like the people of corn these days, or are we more like the people of wood? If you want, if you believe it's like the people of corn, type corn in the chat. If not, type wood in the chat. I'm curious. I'll read the chat after and see what people actually believe. And so today, let's be more like the people of corn, less like the people of wood. And this is a perfect opportunity to start preparing for the equinox tomorrow. As I mentioned, tomorrow is going to be more practical. We're going to have a super, super special guest. His name is Tata Adalberto. He's an Akej, which means a Maya spiritual leader from the Cachiquel Nation. And he's going to be guiding a very small fire ceremony for us to receive the energy of the equinox. The equinox is actually tomorrow. Today was just sharing more knowledge, information, just to give you context to who are the Maya and why are these practices important, and why are we doing what we're doing. But tomorrow we're going to get into actual practical wisdom, spiritual practices, all kinds of stuff like that, as well as the day after. We didn't want to just do the equinox, but we wanted to do the equinox and then the day after, so that we start the new day, the first day of the new cycle, in the strongest, best possible way. So you don't have to prepare or anything for tomorrow, just so that you don't have to worry about that. You don't even have to bring anything. If you do want to bring something, of course, you're welcome to bring it. What would bring something mean? Like if you want to bring a candle or a few candles to light alongside the Tata, because he's going to light a fire. So if you want to have your fire at home, feel free to bring a candle. If you want to bring your incense, bring your incense. If there's anything that's meaningful to you that you'd like to bring, feel free to bring it. You can decorate your space with like flowers or whatever. But again, you don't have to actually do that. It's completely optional, just if you feel like it. But yeah, there's nothing else that you have to do to prepare. Tata Alberto is an incredible Akij. I can't wait for you guys to meet him tomorrow. He's so strong, so powerful, so wise, so amazing. I really encourage you to not miss the live event tomorrow. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. day one out of the 3-day Equinox challenge and get ready to receive that beautiful energy of the equinox tomorrow. Have an awesome rest of your day and cheers if you're drinking anything, and see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Have an awesome rest of your day. See you. Bye bye.